Hi, thanks for tuning in for our ISC21 HPC market update. I'm Mark Nosikoff, Senior Analyst and Lead Storage Analyst at Hyperion Research. I'll be taking a slightly different approach to this market update. It wouldn't be a Hyperion Research update without sharing at least some forecast data. But after a brief look at the numbers, I'd like to touch on seemingly disparate gradual activity that's happened since SC20 that, when taken as a whole, I believe points to accelerating attention suddenly being given to the role of storage and data management in the HPC ecosystem. This non-exhaustive look will include perspectives on global announcements, US Department of Energy plans, shifts in vendor business models, and users' increasing efforts to leverage cloud for HPC storage. But first, the numbers. Storage continues to be the largest growth segment of the various HPC broad market areas, with a forecast 8.5% 5-year growth rate, culminating in $8 billion of revenue in 2024, representing roughly 20% of users' overall spend on on-prem HPC infrastructure. For every dollar spent on-prem on servers, roughly 40 cents is spent on storage. Spend on HPC storage in the cloud is growing even faster, more than twice the growth rate of on-prem storage spend across the forecast period. Representing roughly 1/3 of user spend on HPC resources in 2019 at 1.3 billion, cloud storage is forecast to be almost 3 billion in 2024. Note this is what users are spending for cloud storage resources. It does not include what CSPs are spending to deploy storage for HPC utilization. That's it for the numbers. Let's now look at some events and announcements since SC20 last November. While some of these announcements share some storage-specific data and statistics, all reflect the demand and substantial investment in both infrastructure and talent to support each site's strategic initiative. Whether it be climate modeling, support of broad scientific discovery and research, increasing scale of traditional HPC mod sim, or new data-intensive HPDA, AI, ML, DL workloads, storage is identified as being key to delivering fastest time to results in discovery. This includes raw sequential large block performance in terms of terabytes per second, high throughput metadata and random small block IOPS performance, cost-effective capacity for the increasingly large data sets required for all HPC workloads, and intelligent placement and movement, or ideally lack of movement, of data where it needs to be, when it needs to be there. Turning to the US, several of the Department of Energy's new and upcoming leadership machines shared more detail relative to their respective storage architectural elements. NERSC has invested quite heavily in Perlmutter to optimize Lustre for simultaneous heterogeneous large block sequential and random small block access for what is anticipated to be one of the fastest AI-based HPC machines when it's fully up and running. Lawrence Livermore provided some insight into El Capitan's storage subsystem. Dubbed Rabbit, the subsystem will simultaneously support both shared file system access and a low latency direct access path from the compute nodes. And while not exclusively storage related, the Flux Resource Manager is being designed to have locality awareness of resources to optionally allocate them at a more granular level than traditional resource managers that take a much broader system-wide view. Lastly, Oak Ridge recently shared the storage specs of Frontier, anticipated to be the United States' first exascale computer. The specs are impressive from all perspectives: capacity, bandwidth and throughput performance, breadth of storage media and type to support delivery of the performance and capacity, and in what may be a first, specifications and requirements for both storage within the compute nodes, along with shared file system capacity served by both open source Lustre and ZFS. On the vendor side of the world, several events can be either directly or loosely characterized as shifts in or augmentations to business models. CentOS had been a popular Linux distribution for both HPC compute and storage nodes. Red Hat clarified its intent and support of CentOS by indicating it will fund it to be more or less an upstream beta for Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Several possible heir apparents have emerged, such as Rocky Linux and Alma Linux. In the big memory space, inclusive of persistent memory, Samsung announced its decision to move its support of persistent memory from NVMe to CXL. This reflects a potential accelerated shift of CXL adoption within HPC's CPU, GPU, memory, and storage hierarchy. Consumption and utility models are emerging as evidenced by HPE's support of HPC workloads on GreenLake and vast shift from a hardware infrastructure vendor to a software company. And file systems also continue to evolve. In addition to the Lustre innovation already mentioned that's occurring, Seagate announced the release of Cortex, an object archive file system in conjunction with its live strategy of on-prem storage infrastructure and cloud storage utility. Another interesting file system development was HPE's support of IBM SpectraScale, reflecting the growing adoption of HPC-enabled AI infrastructures in the enterprise to support their growing adoption of AI techniques. Last for today, but certainly not least in the HPC world for similar announcements, were several large HPC sites sharing their strategies of increased leverage of the cloud for HPC storage. Almost 4 exabytes of storage is expected to be deployed as part of the UK Met and Microsoft deal for addressing the former's next-gen requirements for weather climate research and storage, query, and retrieval of data within its active data archive. Rounding out this non-exhaustive cloud storage activity is RIKEN's announcement of partnering with Oracle for its cloud storage needs on Fugaku, the top supercomputer on the SC20 top 500 list. Quite an eventful 6 months relative to HPC storage. Didn't see or hear one of your HPC storage-related innovations and want to know more? Let us know. Hyperion Research aims to start being out and about in the coming months. While nothing specific is committed at this point, we do expect to be making the rounds both US and globally. Let us know if you'd like to talk directly, not just about HPC storage, but anything HPC related. We're considering the concept of informal will be at a various location if you'd like to talk whenever we may be in town. And while our September HPC user forums will still be virtual this year, we do expect to be on site at SC21 in St. Louis in some capacity, no pun intended. We hope to see you then. Thanks again for attending and take care.